This is the Brewers POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Milwaukee Brewers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How sweep it is for your Milwaukee Brewers. The theme of today's Locked On Brewers POSTCAST, a walk-off from Jackson Chourio, the first of his big league career, a 3-2 series sweep over those Los Angeles Dodgers at American Family Field. Jose Quintana on the mound. We'll talk about his start, the pitching and the defense, the bullpen holding for the Milwaukee Brewers in this one as they have all series long. We'll discuss some of that and a series sweep that concludes with a walk-off, as we have mentioned before, by the bat of Jackson Chourio. And we'll get to a lot of it, but it would all kind of became possible for Jackson Chourio because one of the newest Brewers. We'll talk about him as the Brewers go for the sweep over the Dodgers. Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Snyder. Welcome into the Locked On Brewers POSTCAST. You can follow me on X at Brandon_Snyder. Remember, wherever you get Locked On Brewers podcasts, you can get this POSTCAST show as well. Apple, Google, Spotify, all those terrific apps. Over on YouTube as well. Just go to that search bar, type in Locked On Brewers. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, get notified when we go live. Lots to break down on the show today. Your thoughts, your reaction, your comments, your celebrations are also welcomed on the program as we discuss a 3-2 Milwaukee Brewers win over the Dodgers at American Family Field. 13 games now over 500 for your Milwaukee Brewers, 53-40. They continue to inch closer to the Chicago Cubs in the National League Central as the All-Star game quickly approaches here, which really kind of snuck up on us for those that are paying real close attention to this Brewers team. It has gone really quick the first half of the season. A few games left for the Milwaukee Brewers, but do they have a statement officially made after the 3-game sweep of the Dodgers? They win Monday 9-1. They win on Tuesday behind Jacob Misiorowski 3-1, and they conclude the sweep for the Dodgers for the first time in Milwaukee ever today with a 3-2 walk-off single off the bat of Jackson Chourio. Quickly, let's get to your scoring summary today, which is brought to you by FanDuel and Open Phone. A walk for the Dodgers in the 5th inning would eventually load the bases. Ohtani would walk. That would score the Dodgers' first run. It would go all the way to the 5th inning. You got to give a lot of credit really to both of these pitchers in today's ball game. Glasnow for the Dodgers, who had been coming off of a rehab assignment and a couple rehab starts. He looked fantastic for the Dodgers, kind of had the Brewers. The Brewers did well against him. They worked the pitches. They did what they always do, right? They work the count. They work the innings. They extend the plate appearance and just couldn't cash in on Glasnow for most of the game. And on the other hand, Jose Quintana as well for the Milwaukee Brewers, 6 innings of work, just the 1 earned run. I thought he was fantastic today, but he did walk Ohtani. That would score a Dodgers run. And then in the 5th, the bottom of the 5th, kind of like this Brewers team, taking on that mentality that, Pat Murphy had talked about, that a lot of the players have talked about in the clubhouse. And it's always, you get down, you bounce back up from adversity. We talked about the adversity that Misiorowski faced after that, his 4th start against the Mets out there in New York, and he bounced back on Tuesday night in tremendous fashion with 12 Ks in 5 innings. And the Brewers did that in the 5th inning, right? You allow Jose Quintana walks Ohtani. The Dodgers take an early 1-0 lead, but the Brewers bounce right back in the bottom of the 5th. Bowers would score on a throwing error there by Will Smith behind the dish. That would leave it at 1-1. It would eventually get to the 7th inning, where a tough outing for Aaron Ashby. I was actually kind of surprised to see Aaron Ashby today. Surprised to see him on Monday in what felt like a game that was already kind of in very well control in a 9-1 game, or 9-0 at the point where Aaron Ashby came in Monday, but he took a line drive off the hand and he would eventually exit and have x-rays and would come negative. But you saw him today. The bases would get loaded. Mookie Betts would hit a sacrifice fly. Nick Mears, Jared Koenig kind of holding the fort down after that, but that would leave it at 2-1. And that takes us to the 9th inning. The Brewers escape a jam in the top of the 9th. The bottom of the 9th inning, I put it on X, and this was at the beginning of the game, because at one point, Jake Bauers and Joey Ortiz, I believe in the 1st or 2nd inning, came up to bat with the bases loaded, less than 2 outs, Jake Bauers would eventually pop out out of bounds in the foul territory. Getting my out of bounds foul territory mixed up in foul territory. And then Joey Ortiz would strike out. And that would be a frustrating sequence for the Brewers early in this one. And I put it on my social media account. I would have just started Andrew Vaughn today. And I know you're playing matchup with the righty versus the lefty, but we saw Andrew Vaughn on a righty on Monday night with a three-pointer over into the Brewers bullpen to kind of set the tempo for that 9-1 Milwaukee Brewers win. I put it out on social media before the ninth inning that I would have just kept rolling with the hot hand and Andrew Vaughn. Had an RBI single in last night's matchup as well. And today in the ninth inning, when the Brewers were down 2-1, Caleb Durbin would get into scoring position. Isaac Collins would get into scoring position, back-to-back singles from both of those guys. And that would take us into the ninth inning with one out and our turning point in a Brewers 3-2 win.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Andrew Vaughn coming to the plate, tying this ball game up with a single to left field. It probably more so on the trademark of that bat, but he muscled it into left field. That would score Isaac Collins. Caleb Durbin would eventually move to third base. The Brewers would stall out of that ninth inning, but that would take us to the 10th. Trevor McGill. How good has Trevor McGill been this year? How good has this Brewers bullpen been all year long? As we had talked about, Jackson Chourio would eventually, after William Contreras, would have a sacrifice fly out there to deep center field. That would move Sal Frelick, who was the automatic runner on second base to begin the inning, to third base, move him into scoring position. And it wouldn't take long for Jackson Chourio to follow up. I believe it was the first or second pitch he saw from Yates in that bottom of the 10th inning, and he would take it off. And the Brewers would go on to secure their first series sweep in Milwaukee over the Dodgers at the history of Brewer baseball. So a fantastic way for this Brewers team to, really create, as we had talked about it, especially with Jacob Mizorowski on national TV and the way that they won on Monday night offensively. Not a lot of offense, speaking for your Brewers in the last few games. They scored 6 runs combined in the last 2 games. But the big thing for this team, and we talked about how great this LA Dodgers offense is, and they are really, really good, guys. Like, this is I know they have been struggling. I think they're now 6 losses in a row the Dodgers have. So you're catching them at a good time, but it's still overall a good offense. The Brewers pitching and their defense has held their own. It's a statement series for your Milwaukee Brewers, a team that you very well could see in October in the playoffs, and you take care of business at American Family Field. This is a Dodger team, as we had mentioned, who is struggling, but they're still 18 games over 500. So it's still one of the best teams in the National League, and they will be there at the end in the National League, believe me. And the Brewers had a statement series win at American Family Field, a 3-game sweep of the Dodgers. And what I really, really like about this, and I know this starts with Pat Murphy, is the mentality of this Brewers team. And he knows it. He talked about it ahead of the Dodgers series, after the Marlins series, about getting back to basics in pregame warmups and pregame drills for his pitchers and his infield and his offense or his outfielders, getting into the basics, because he knows I'm paraphrasing him, that the lack of focus can be there for some teams and some players as you creep closer to the All-Star break. So as soon as I saw the Dodgers on the Brewers schedule the week before the All-Star break, I was very curious to see what team we would get for the Milwaukee Brewers. And it doesn't surprise me one bit that you're getting the scrappy scratch and crawl team to win a 3-1 ball game and then win a 3-2 ball game and do it in different ways. And 9-1, obviously, on Monday night with a ton of offense. So a lot of credit to the coaching staff to begin this series and finish the series at American Family Field. You got one more before the All-Star break. You got an off day coming up on Thursday, but a statement series for your Milwaukee Brewers. And just when Cubs fans thought, we're pulling away, I saw it on social media. I think after the series against the Marlins, or maybe it was after the series against the Mets, where they're, okay, we got a little breathing room in the National League Central. We can breathe a little bit. The Brewers, losing a few here and there. Boom, right at your doorstep. Once again, the Cubs will play later today, but the Brewers 2 games back in the National League Central as it stands right now. That can creep down to a 1.5 games if the Cubs lose. I believe they're still in Minnesota, and again, if they win, that will go back up to 2.5. But the Brewers are right there in the National League Central, and we had talked about it many times throughout this season. All these stars really haven't aligned. They haven't aligned in this series, and you just beat one of the best teams in baseball, and all the stars really didn't align outside of Monday night's game. in this series, right? You didn't have a whole lot of offense in game 2. You didn't have, and rightfully so, against Clayton Kershaw, a future Hall of Famer. So, I mean, that's not going to catch anybody by surprise. But Tyler Glasnow, who's coming off of, an injury and maybe on a pitch count and maybe not to his full health, you weren't sure what you were going to see out of the Dodgers starter today. And he did well, right? 5 innings pitched, just allowed 2 hits and no earned runs. So it was a fantastic game for the Dodgers starter, but the Brewers were able to muscle off 3 runs and kind of, find their way to victory, led behind their pitching and their defense. Isaac Collins with a fantastic catch out in left field today, who has been tremendous out in left field, an infielder by trade, but Isaac Collins has been fantastic. It's been so huge, I think, of preserving that health of Christian Yelich. And Jackson Chourio with a couple nice plays out in center field. And this Brewers team is just finding ways to win. And right now, that's all that matters, right? We'll get to the nitty gritty, throughout the course of the rest of the summer into the fall and where the playoff seeding and what type of baseball this team's playing going into October. But right now, this team is doing just enough. The pitching and the defense is holding. The offense, when the pitching isn't there, is creating. I know Monday was kind of all 3 of the stars were aligned, right? The batting, the offense, the defense, the bullpen, the pitching, all those kind of aligned. It hasn't really been consistent, and you're now 13 games over 500. And we talked about the health of this team as they continue to get better for your Milwaukee Brewers. Offensively speaking, though, as I mentioned, not a lot of run scoring. Christian Yelich, his on-base streak continues to climb. 21 straight games for Christian Yelich on-base streak going into the last 3 games before the All-Star break. So good things happening for your Brewers. They keep winning, 13 games over 500, a 3-2 win in extra innings over the LA Dodgers at American Family Field. Your thoughts, your reactions, your comments, your celebrations coming up right after this. Today's Locked On Brewers postcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports in full swing. Whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? 5.5 strikeouts was the over-under for Mizorowski last night. I know we're a day behind here, but I'm willing to bet that a lot of people smashed the over on that. At least I hope you did with 12 last night. And with FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at Bradford Beach. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5. And guys, listen, if that first $5 bet hits, maybe you had it on Mizorowski last night. Maybe you had it on a Jackson Chourio walk-off today. I don't know. But if that first $5 bet hits, you get $150 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Once again, FanDuel.com. Today's show also brought to you by Open Phone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had a service emergency like a burst pipe. It's the first plumber to answer. Did you wait? No, you did not. You called the next one. And that's why having a reliable business line is so important. And that's why you need Open Phone. It is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone. And the cool thing is if you have other lines with other companies, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. And they are offering Locked On Brewers postcast listeners 20% off of your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. One more time, that's openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. Again, if you have existing numbers with another service, they will port them over at no extra charge. FREE. Open Phone. No missed calls, no missed customers. A series sweep at American Family Field for your Milwaukee Brewers over the Los Angeles Dodgers. The first time that has happened in the history of baseball for your Brewers. A 3-2 win, 53-40 on the season now as they get a day off on Thursday in preparation for the Nationals. Yelich, as we had talked about, his on-base streak now extending to 21 games. Jackson Chourio walking it off for your Brewers in extras. The bullpen, we had talked about, maybe there's some concerns with the bullpen. I know Aaron Ashby didn't look fantastic today. Nick Mears, not much he can really do there. He gets the last 2 outs in that jam that Aaron Ashby left him with the bases loaded. Not bases loaded, but guys in scoring position. Grant Anderson coming in, not giving up anything. Jared Kanan coming in and not giving up anything. Abner Uribe continues to be the guy that you guys know how much I love, and I continue to say it, that leads the major leagues and holds one of the best in all of baseball, and Trevor McGill, who gets the win in today's action because he pitched at the top of the 10th and kept the Dodgers at bay. Didn't even move a guy off of second base, was Trevor McGill. A fantastic performance from Jose Quintana, going 6 innings, allowing 2 hits and just 1 earned run. You heard me mention the guys in the bullpen, and the Brewers just getting enough run support and led by, how good has Andrew Vaughn been for the Milwaukee Brewers since he's arrived? 3 appearances, right? He didn't get the start today at American Family Field in the series finale. Had the last 2 games 1 and 2 against the Dodgers. 5 RBIs in 3 games from Andrew Vaughn. And it feels like they have all been really big, right? Game 1 for Andrew Vaughn, it's the first 3 runs of the game. Kind of sets the tone in a 9-1 finish. Game 2, he helps break that game, get the Brewers a couple runs across the plate and kind of give Mizorowski some breathing room. He played it in 2 runs. And then you talk about today where he's able to tie the game in the bottom of the 9th and just be a clutch guy and somebody off the bench. Once again, the flexibility, the versatility of this Brewers team is remarkable. You got to give a lot of credit to Matt Arnold for doing what he did when he dealt Aaron Savale, and he knew what he had in Andrew Vaughn. And again, we talked about, being a top pick in 2019 of the White Sox organization, hasn't played winning baseball down there on the south side of Chicago. A change of scenery has certainly helped Andrew Vaughn as he helps deliver. We begin with Michael over on YouTube. Monasterio, you can't strike out licking a sac fly, wins the game. Yeah, the bottom of the 9th there for the Brewers. They had Caleb Durbin on after Andrew Vaughn hit that tying run. They had Durbin on third with 1 out, and they failed to score. Monasterio, as Michael points out, with the strikeout, Frelick would later ground out to second base. The Brewers wouldn't plate anything, and it would go to extras. It wouldn't matter. The Brewers would go on for the win, thanks to Jackson Chourio and William Contreras moving over Sal Frelick, and then Jackson with the single to left field. It was frustrating, though, in that moment for the Brewers, and you were kind of scratching your head, at least I was, because you're like, oh, not again, right? Like, not a good day at the plate overall. 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position, 9 players left on base, but the Brewers do get the win. Nick, part of our everydayers, Chourio, let's go. Brooms out, Cardiac Kids for the win. Celebrate the win, but still left too many runners on base. Yeah, and that's kind of what we're getting to is the 9 runners on base. You're right, Nick. Celebrate the win. I mean, I just don't care at this point how these wins look, and I really don't. Maybe in September you worry about it. Maybe late September you worry about it. The Brewers are getting wins, and as we had mentioned, Pat Murphy has mentioned the stars not all being aligned yet for this team. This team isn't clicking completely. Again, according to Pat Murphy, paraphrasing him, that is the good thing to look at, right? The optimistic view to look at things, right? You're in control of the wild card. You're just a few clicks out of the lead in the National League Central, and nothing's really clicked at the same time, all together for this Brewers team. That's the scary thing. I think if you're a Cubs fan or a Cardinals fan, or you're a team in the National League that has World Series aspirations, you're looking at the team in Milwaukee and you're kind of like, I don't know, man, if they go out and get 1 bat, maybe Andrew Vaughn could be the bat. I know other people have other aspirations for players throughout Major League Baseball to make an appearance in Milwaukee via the trade market, but one little bat, one little move, I should say, with a bat, and this team could really take off. And if you're a team in the National League, I'm sure you're absolutely worried about this Brewers team. Kevin over on YouTube, Trevor McGill, this whole Brewers pitching staff, what a heck of a game. A team effort today, guys. A team effort today, led by Jose Quintana, who was fantastic. I know he walked in Ohtani there to plate the first run of the game, but I thought Jose Quintana was fantastic for your Milwaukee Brewers. I would typically give him the player of the game because when you go 6 innings against this team and you only allow 1 earned run, I thought it was pretty good. But I think most of us kind of are going to be in agreement on the player of the game in a 3-2 Brewers win.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
The 10th inning, when all the chips were on the table for Jackson Chourio, boy, did the kid deliver for his first ever walk-off hit. Before that plate appearance was 0 for 4, and a frustrating day at the plate for Jackson Chourio that included 3 strikeouts. But when he needed it the most, when the team needed it the most, he delivered for your Milwaukee Brewers. You could look at Andrew Vaughn for tying the game. You could look at really the bullpen in general for your Milwaukee Brewers to be player of the game. But if you walk off a team and it helps to conclude the sweep for the first time ever, right, in Milwaukee, The Brewers over the Dodgers. You got to give it to the guy that walked it off. Peter over on YouTube. Andrew Vaughn has had a very good first impression. Big pinch hit to tie it against a tough closer in Tanner Scott. Andrew Vaughn has been everything and more. And you got to start with giving a lot of credit to Brewers general manager Matt Arnold, who I think I've said it before in the show. If you're new to the program, I'm a huge Matt Arnold fan. I love the way he operates. And again, has every move he's made panned out? Well, no. Has every move, will future moves always pan out? No. But Matt Arnold is always making really good moves, right? The Jose Quintana, who got the start today, was a late acquisition, a late signing in training camp, and it was a blessing because of what the Brewers needed with the plethora of injuries they had to start the year. But it has been fantastic to for what he has done since he has taken over after David Stearns had left, and kind of set the bar kind of high, right? For a Brewers GM to step in. And I know Matt Arnold has been here for quite some time and worked with David Stearns. So for him to kind of take over and really not skip a beat and continue on, doing what he's been doing as general manager and continuing to put out a Brewers team that is in the playoffs year in and year out, winning divisions, 3 out of the last 4 years. It's been fantastic. Jamie over on YouTube, part of our everydayers. Brandon, I have this feeling this is the year, not wanting to get ahead of ourselves, but I may just say it if we play like this come October. Very capable, go Brooker. I said it last night, Jamie. Thank you for always being part of our everydayers. One bat away. Maybe it's Andrew Vaughn. I know other people, want the Brewers to go out there and make a splash, and we'll see what they do. This team is one real bat away from really being World Series contenders. I wholeheartedly believe that. I mean, the Dodgers, right, are a top of the NL West right now as it stands right now. And the Brewers had a statement series sweep over that team that just won the World Series a handful of months ago. And I know they're not playing great baseball right now, but this was a statement series from your Milwaukee Brewers. You did it on national TV last night with Jacob Mizorowski. It was absolutely fantastic. I thought, for what this team has gone through all year long, right? We start the year off with Freddie Peralta at one point being the only healthy pitcher for your Milwaukee Brewers, and you're not able to, your defense is kind of slipping a little bit. The offense isn't matching up well, or the offense is really good, then the pitching isn't great, and you're not able to align everything. For them to climb out of that proverbial hole that we had talked about that they had dug themselves into, to be where they're at right now. And keep in mind, guys, right? You get Brandon Woodruff back, Nestor Cortez on his way back for your Milwaukee Brewers. This team isn't even fully there yet health-wise. William Contreras has been battling a finger injury all year long, and you're 13 games over 500. You sweep the Dodgers at American Family Field for the first time ever. You're right there in the National League Central. You're right there in the wild card. You're controlling your destiny right now if you're a Milwaukee Brewers fan, if you're a team, if you're a player for the Milwaukee Brewers, and they haven't even played their best ball yet. It's just starting for your Brewers, and they're exactly where they need to be. Lucas over on YouTube. Trevor McGill is an all-star, just got announced. Lucas breaking the news on the Locked On Brewers postcast. My man, Lucas, thank you. Well-deserved for Trevor McGill. I kind of made the joke about it the other day that I think it was actually last night, that Sal Frelick and Christian Yelich, I feel like should have been nominated to be on the all-star team. But, again, no gripes when you sweep the Dodgers ahead of the all-star break. Cody, part of our everydayers on Locked On the Brewers postcast. Proud of this team. No small task taking down the Dodgers. Yeah, and I think, again, they haven't been playing great, but it's a Dodgers team that it's a flip of a switch, right? I mean, when you have, the team that they have, right? Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Will Smith, Freddie Freeman, who I know who isn't swinging the bat right, Miguel Rojas, like this team is loaded from top to bottom. I mean, they're loaded. And again, what this team did over the 3-game series, right? We mentioned it, defensively and from a starting and bullpen pitching perspective, one of the best offenses in baseball, right? Just behind the Cubs in most runs scored per game, even while they're struggling. And the Brewers gave up 4 runs in 3 games. So you give a lot of credit to the pitching, right? Mizorowski, Freddie Peralta, Jose Quintana today, the bullpen, Abner Uribe, Trevor McGill, but also the defense. So also the defense is able to step up for your Milwaukee Brewers when they need it the most and complete those situational spots defensively in late in games where they're able. We saw the other day, last night actually, was the turning point with Andrew Monasterio there in the 6th inning where the game is tied and he keeps it tied with that tremendous play at third base. He's not even your everyday third baseman. And you're plugging and playing Monasterio. Just played shortstop 2 games before that. And he slides over to third and makes the defensive play of the game for the Brewers in last night's 3-1 win. So again, it's a fantastic stretch of baseball for your Milwaukee Brewers. I mentioned that Marlins series to bookmark it, because that was a Marlins team that had been playing really, really good baseball prior to the Brewers. The Brewers were able to take 2 out of 3 and kind of springboard them into this Dodgers series where they now sweep the Dodgers 3-2, an off day on Thursday. They'll pick things up against the Nationals on Friday before the All-Star break. Thomas over on YouTube, a couple more comments before we wrap things up. Rotation looks amazing right now, and the best part about it, Thomas, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. Every game Mizorowski pitches, every experience gained is a plus for the young phenom, right? So he's going to continue to get better. Brandon Woodruff, who looked absolutely amazing in his return, is going to continue to get better. I can't wait for Brandon Woodruff to start at American Family Field in front of the home crowd and be back. And we mentioned before, Nestor Cortez is also stepping up and do a handful of rehab starts in Nashville. He completed one where he sat down 8 in a row at one point. He's set for I believe Sunday rehab assignment, either Saturday or Sunday up in Appleton. So good things are happening, and it's pointing to the right direction for this Milwaukee Brewers ahead of the All-Star break. Brewers go to Dodger Stadium right after the break, so it should be interesting. Yeah, that's another good point, because I do feel like, again, you take care of business at American Family Field. You have a very, very winnable series next against the Washington Nationals if you're a Milwaukee Brewers fan. And then you have a nice little break, a much-needed break, but then you go right back to business out in L.A. to take on the Dodgers. So it'll be another test for your Milwaukee Brewers. But all year, they have been passing the test that we have put in front of them. We had mentioned that schedule stretch in June where it was like, oh man, that's a tough break. It's tough. We'll see, what happens. And what do? They become one of the best teams during that stretch. The injuries that they've been given to the beginning of the year, and to some key players, William Contreras being one of them, Garrett Mitchell being another. And we wonder how they're going to bounce back, and they just find a way. The mentality for this team, it begins and ends with their manager and Pat Murphy. He is right now pulling all the strings, and it's fantastic to watch. The Brewers completing the sweep over the Dodgers at American Family Field today, 3-2, 13 games over 553 in 40 on the year. My thanks to each and every one of you for always tuning in to the Locked On Brewers postcast. My name is Brandon Snyder. You can follow me on Twitter at Brandon_Snyder. Remember, wherever you get audio podcasts, you can get the Locked On Brewers postcast and the Locked On Brewers daily podcast with my guy, Chuck Freeman, Apple, Google, Spotify, all those terrific apps, as well as over on YouTube. Just hit that search bar, type in Locked On Brewers, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, get notified when we go live, and we will go live on, when do the Brewers play next? Friday evening when they take on the Washington Nationals, an off day on Thursday. My thanks to each and every one of you for always tuning in. And as always, win, lose, or draw, it feels really good after a sweep of the Dodgers. But regardless, win, lose, or draw, it is always go Brewers. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.